The Last Week by Marcus Borg and John Crossan is a book that covers what the Gospels teach about Jesus' final days in Jerusalem. During Holy Week, we'll be sharing a summary of some of the events of each day. Here is a summary of that last Wednesday from the book of Mark. It was 2 days before the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him, for they said, "Not during the festival, or there may be a riot among the people." While in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, a woman anoints Jesus with a very costly ointment. Some, in anger, especially Judas Iscariot, felt this was a waste of money, and they scolded her. But Jesus said they should leave her alone and that she had anointed his body before burial. Then Judas went to the priests with the intention of betraying Jesus in exchange for money. The Jewish crowds in Jerusalem were often portrayed as rabidly and violently against Christ. But if this were true, why was it necessary to arrest him in the darkness of night with the help of a traitor? Why not arrest him in broad daylight? Why do they need Judas? The crowds praised Jesus on the previous Sunday, and his messages on Monday left the people spellbound. When Jesus challenged the scribes the next day, it says the large crowd was listening to him with delight. Mark 12:37. Indeed, the high priests and collaborative leaders were very concerned. As John 11:48 records, "If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe him, and the Romans will come and destroy both our holy place and our nation." These leaders were afraid of the crowds, who regarded John as a prophet and stood with both John and Jesus. Jesus then tells his disciples what is shortly going to happen. When Peter answers Jesus' question by saying, "You are the Messiah," Jesus warns him not to tell anyone about it. Then he tells him he is the Son of Man, and he must undergo great suffering, be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and scribes, be killed, and after 3 days to rise again. It appears that the disciples misunderstood Jesus' true messiahship and may have expected, like many Jews at the time, that a powerful Messiah would rise up against the Romans and free the Jews. When Peter tries to rebuke Jesus for saying these things, Jesus' response is equally blunt. "Get thee behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." Mark 8:33. Jesus then explains to all of the disciples and the crowd with him his true invitation, illustrating what is at stake for everyone. "If anyone wants to become followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life?" 8:34-37. The disciples are expected to walk with Jesus toward death and resurrection. Nothing is said about Jesus doing it alone to excuse everyone from having to follow him. But even as Jesus is announcing his death by execution, the disciples are arguing about who would be the greatest among them. Jesus again predicts in detail what is to happen to him. He will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes. They will condemn him to death. They will hand him over to the Gentiles. They will mock, spit, flog him, and kill him. And after 3 days, he will rise again. Jesus knows exactly and accepts completely what will happen in Jerusalem. Then he schools the disciples on what true leadership is and how they should conduct themselves. Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all. Then he took a little child and put it among them, saying, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." You know that among the Gentiles, Those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. As the day ends, we are reminded of the very best and worst possible response to Jesus. The unnamed woman who anoints him demonstrates that she is a true believer and a model leader. Judas Iscariot is the worst example of failing Jesus by entering into an agreement to betray him and hand him over to those who collaborate with imperial rule. Wednesday ends, and the plot has been set in motion. Let's be praying we will be the kind of servant leaders our Savior wants us to be.